A critical error is an error which the OS cannot reasonably ignore. Jake Steinberg is a streamer, writer, and certified yapper. Complimentary. Peter Hunt Szpytek is a YouTuber, journalist, and certified yapper. Derogatory. These are the things they cannot reasonably ignore.
I want to start this episode by saying thank you for being here. I understand that a large portion of our audience is writers and critics and people who enjoy video games that just generally want to discuss the way that we talk about games. So thank you for being here and for engaging in these conversations with us. It really does mean a lot. We do notice that people are actually here to talk about these things and not be reactionary. We understand that people disagree with us a lot of the time. And I appreciate that when people disagree and when people push back and say, hey, I have a different perspective on this. I think this episode is there's going to be some of that with this episode. And I just want to say, again, thank you for being here. These conversations mean a lot to me. And this is a conversation that Jake and I have sort of gone back and forth on, wanting to decide how we want to have this conversation, because we want it to be productive. We do not want it to be accusatory. We do not want it to be shitty, is I think just the easiest way to say it. But I think that at the end of the day, this week, the last 2 weeks, let's say, have made me feel like we can't not talk about this anymore. Because I think we as journalists, as critics, as games media people, as video game enjoyers, we need to talk about the way that we discuss Xbox and the way that we talk about their products, talk about their games, talk about them as a company, because a lot of it has recently, personally, been giving me the ick with the way that a lot of games media people have been talking about it. And I think this week with the release of the Outer Worlds 2, the Xbox ROG Ally X, and there's another one, I think, without the X. The release of Ninja Gaiden 4, and we are currently sitting, we're recording this Friday morning. It seems like there's going to be some sort of big Halo announcement, whether that's a remake of the original or another remaster of it or whatever. We're waiting on more Xbox news that has been teased for today. And it has just been really frustrating to see the way people are treating this company and then also talking about it in sort of a way that to me feels a little hypocritical. When I think we should probably introduce just the major thrust of this sort of problem. Would you agree? I think it comes down to the BDS movement, which is a boycott a general boycott that people have been asked to do to show Microsoft, hey, people are not okay with your abiding in the genocide going on in Gaza.
Let me take this baton from you, please. A little bit here. Yeah.
Save me.
I think something that's important to us too is that I think one of the most compelling parts of friendship for me personally is the ability to have uncomfortable, meaningful conversation. And I think that by listening to this particular podcast, somebody out there listening might be putting themselves in a position to be confronted and to have a little, that's kind of what we are engaging with right now. You might hear something today that is going to make it feel like you are being called out or confronted. And I think I would just ask in a generosity in this conversation, the same way that you would have a generosity for your friend, because the goal is ultimately to, I think, make people better and more well-rounded. And of the same token, I think you and I are kind of positioning and setting ourselves up for confrontation as well.
Yes.
And we are making that choice because this is important to us.
Yes.
We know that there is a version of the podcast that we could have released this week. We had the topic picked out.
We did. We had a whole topic.
Several pages of notes right here that I'm putting in the trash. And we are instead choosing to do this because this is what we've decided we need to prioritize to feel good about how we are existing.
Yes.
So that's I think there's a way to be a generous audience member and there is a way to be an ungenerous one. There is a way to jump on us here. And I guess we'll see how this is going to pan out. But
And I also think, hey, like sometimes when I read something or watch something, listen to something, whatever that I have found to be confrontational within myself, sometimes I will let it be confrontational. I will stop watching and then I'll come back later when I'm more open to it. And so if that's you, hey, thanks again. Thanks for giving us a shot and for hearing us out here.
Love that. I liked the direction you were going into of just kind of saying, let's kind of start with like setting the stage about what this is and why this matters, because some people might not have the context. So there is a movement known as BDS, as you were saying, boycott, divestment, and sanction. This is a global and non-violent campaign. The idea is that it's a pressure campaign. The people that are participating in BDS are trying to pressure Israel to comply with international law and end its occupation of Palestinian territories. Easy. The way that this is achieved is by targeting companies, institutions, and governments that are complicit in this system, right? So I think something important about BDS to me is that it is a movement less focused on, this might sound silly to say, but like changing hearts through guilt or persuasion, but to change incentives through collective refusal. So withholding financial, academic, or cultural cooperation from those who are actively sustaining ongoing apartheid. So the BDS movement has called out Microsoft for its contracts with the Israeli military and surveillance infrastructure. And because Microsoft has these contracts, Xbox is then implicated. And not in a symbolic way, but like a material way, because every Xbox purchase and all of the money that this apparatus is bringing in contributes to the apartheid happening in Palestine, even if most of us would rather not think of it that way. And I think the question on our minds today, and kind of what we are going to be exploring, is that we have the context of this global movement that has the historical wherewithal of kind of, you see how this movement in particular and what they are trying to achieve is rooted in historical movements of the past, right? I think about the Montgomery bus boycott in the 50s. I think about the United Farm Workers grape boycott in the 60s. I think about the global boycott of South African goods under apartheid, probably the best comparison that we have. And in the eras of these boycotts, each is kind of ridiculed for being impractical and unrealistic and oftentimes too divisive. And you find that critics will dismiss these movements as a kind of performative moralism. And yet, each, I think, precisely does reshape public conscience to where we are now and how we kind of look back at these historical events, because because they refused to be convenient. So as we start off today, BDS is something that is important. I think it matters. And I think it's the understanding of what it is and what it's trying to achieve is not something new. It is something based on historically successful movements. And now we have this games media apparatus, which is entering this story not just as observers doing a job that is siloed off here, but as what I would say protectors of the status quo. If we have a targeted global movement saying one of the greatest, possibly the greatest active injustice being played out on the global stage today is happening to people. People are being decimated on a level that I frankly don't know if I have ever seen in my entire adult life. Just like a harrowing thing is happening. In solidarity with those people, and what they are asking us to do, what they are begging us to do, because they don't have institutional power themselves. How does games media operate? Does anything have to change about how games media talks about Xbox and covers Xbox. What is the responsibility there? I think that is the conversation we are having today. I tried to give it. I realized that was long.
No, but it's one of those things where like I hate when discussing this issue, like the general like issue with this genocide is like to say like, well, it's complicated, because it is complicated in terms of like discussing the various like ins and outs of it and whatever. Morality, like the morality of it is not, but the actual like, here's what's going on and here's what everyone's being asked to do and whatever is one of those things that like you said, like, because this is kind of an unprecedented thing for our current times, it's like, how do I even begin to unpack this? And I think you did a good job of bringing it up, because also specifically,
Can I even clarify something you said right there really quick about the it's complicated, because it's complicated defense is so charged with this particular issue. Yes. And I just want to make clear something that I know you know, but just for the sake of the people listening, is that a large reason why this particular conflict is called complicated is because of forces that have gone out of their way to obfuscate the truth of what is going on, and the wildly imbalanced power dynamic that is not being given a fair representation largely in the public sphere today. I do think that is changing. That is not necessarily what we are talking about on this podcast.
No, but it's also like, it's really easy to just say, oh, well, it's complicated, and then just move on.
Exactly.
But because, well, it kind of is, but also many parts of it are not. But so with Microsoft specifically, of course, Xbox is not, as you mentioned, is not like the arm of Microsoft that is doing this harm, but the BDS movement has identified Xbox specifically as a priority boycott target, because that is what I and you listening to this have the ability to impact.
Yep.
And that is what most consumers have the ability to actually interface with. And so we are being asked to abstain from purchasing their goods and their games and their hardware and all of that stuff. And then the question then comes to, how do we, as the people in the media, talk about this? Talk about Xbox in general? Because the frustrating thing that has cropped up hot off the heels of the ROG Xbox Ally X, Ninja Gaiden 4 published by Xbox, Outer Worlds 2 developed, published by Xbox Studios, and whatever this Halo thing is that, again, we're waiting on for right now, is that the response from games media has been to do nothing, or to just like sometimes tweet about it, to just be like, this is why you should be, we should be a part of the BDS boycott whenever Xbox Game Pass raises its prices. And I find that to be incredibly frustrating. You look like you have something to say. Where do you want to start with this?
No, I'm so sorry. I don't mean to be.
Please.
I think as many people who follow me know, this is an issue that I have a lot of personal involvement in, right?
Sure.
And I think depending on how familiar you are with this, what I'm about to say will hit you as like of course, but I've been an anti-Zionist Jew my entire life. And I think that this is something that I have been aware of, and I think when I look at the opportunity that we have in this specific moment, in this specific industry, it is something that we have never had this opportunity before. And something that people say a lot is that games media is like really small. There's kind of that joke of like, oh, there's like 12 actual games media jobs. Yeah. And all I can think about when I hear that is, yes, that is awful, but that means the propensity for having meaningful motion and change is so high.
The power you have as a writer, as a critic, as someone who has a community, a gaming community, is tangible.
Really tangible. And it really stands out to me when you said it, but I think if you are going to, by and large, look at how games media is talking about Xbox through all of these different product launches, I would say that there is an almost outright refusal to acknowledge BDS.
So I think what I find most frustrating, or have found most frustrating over the past 6 months of this, has been sort of the way that games media has treated this movement, largely by just ignoring it. Despite the fact that these conversations are happening, there are writers, there are fans, like gaming fans, who have been wanting to talk about this and have been commenting and whatever underneath journalists, underneath content creators, all this stuff, saying, hey, what about this? Should we talk about this? And largely, games media has been silent on it. And I find that to be really, really frustrating. Do you know what I mean?
I do. And I think that the reason that I think we kind of started by introducing the movement and kind of explaining the legitimacy of it and the meaningfulness of it is that I don't think anybody at least for the most part, a lot of people in games media, if I were to tell them like, yo, BDS, it's important, yada, 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 I think largely people would agree with me. I think largely people would say, yes, I see the meaning there. And I think if we acknowledge that BDS is doing something meaningful and political and actionable, and we agree with the premise that Microsoft and by extension the consumer-facing element Xbox is complicit in apartheid, and if we agree to this premise, then what does it say for the acceptance of early review codes?
It's uncomfortable.
Of going to preview events, of having flights and hotels paid for you, of like all of these what some would call perks, that and not only the individual benefit of these things, but the ways in which you then turn around and professionally benefit from these things and monetarily benefit from these things. The fact that you are taking that early review code from Xbox and you're putting it up on your website and you're making money from that review now. At what point do I get to say you are complicit in this?
Yeah. Because the thing that is tough is it's really uncomfortable because it's this thing where I'm like, I understand the reaction to that, right? Because like if that were me, whatever, and you said that to me, I'd be like, no, I'm just Peter from Illinois.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? Like, what do you mean? How can I be? I don't work for Xbox, and it's like, but when you look at the chain, when you look at the order of operations here, you're at the end, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you are at the end of this. And it's important to understand how you relate with that company. And also, like a lot of people in games journalism, I think, don't understand that the line specifically with games journalism is so blurry between PR and actual journalism because it's complicated, right? Because access is oftentimes seen as what journalism is, right? We were having conversations a month ago with like the Silk Song thing about how like so many people were saying like, well, if I don't get a copy early, then I don't get to do a review and my review is worthless. And, one of the responses to us that we had is like, hey, critique and reviews are not, it's not required to have that early. And it's frustrating then to sort of see that then applied to the Xbox stuff as well, right? Where it's like, if you have this early and you are using this as, you are benefiting from this, but also Xbox is benefiting from you giving Outer Worlds 2 an 8 out of 10 or whatever. I'm not saying you should I'm not saying that if you're reviewing it then and with under all these circumstances, like, oh, now it's a 1 out of 10. I'm not saying that's how it works, but I am saying like there is a relationship there. And I think I think that people in games media, you're not foolish. You know that there's a relationship there, and you have to recognize that exists.
There are so many games coming out in October. Remember this?
Yeah. Oh, I know.
Yeah, there's so many games coming out in October. So many games. A tweet list of games. I don't care what you review the Outer Worlds 2 at. I think that by accepting the code, by platforming the game in the way that it is worthy of a review, you have already done the work. And I know we started the show with this, but I feel that it is important to bring up as well. Thank you, Xbox.
Yeah. Yes. It is the endless thanking of this company.
Thank you.
That is one of the things that just like it makes my skin crawl right now.
Really gross.
Thank you, Xbox. Thank you for the code for Fallout 4 on the Switch.
An acknowledgement that you are working alongside them. Journalism, typically a counterbalance to corporate greed. That is largely the reason it exists. This deference to to Xbox. And I know that I think a lot of people would come back and try to have this rebuttal with me where it's like, but we do cover Xbox in a negative light. We are combative with them. But like, here's the difference, man. It's like when there's a flop game or there's news that Xbox is conducting layoffs, it's like, oh yeah, we're gonna cover that and we're gonna give them negative coverage. But it is a story that games media covers like anything else. It is consumable. How many layoffs can Xbox do before anyone in games media changes literally anything about how they cover Xbox? There is a whitewashing of the brand by allowing them to decide what the news is. Because guess what happens? Anytime there's a big round of layoffs, Xbox puts out a press release. You are talking about this because it is approved. It is okay to talk about. There are pieces of news that people decide is not okay about in our media because they are aligning themselves with corporate institutions of power rather than solidarity with any group of people that might be being betrayed. I think
which is the point of journalism.
The point
Guys,
of journalism.
it's the point of journalism. You are here to serve people. You are not here to serve companies. I know it's tough, and I know that this is the world we're in, right? This is the environment we're in media wise, and it's really difficult to understand how to unpack it and understand where to even start unpacking it. But I think the first step is to recognize, like, what are you doing? And if you are a games journalist, capital J journalist, you should know that. And if you are uncomfortable with that, and if you are saying, well, I actually can't do this because I don't want to hurt my relationship with this company, then I think you need to reassess what your job is. And if you are actually a journalist or you are an unpaid piece of PR. And I'm not trying to be shitty. I understand that sounds shitty. I know that gets thrown at games journalists a lot by people trying to be shitty. But I do think it's worth recognizing when it comes to, here is a company that is attempting to tell you how to feel about this stuff. It's laying all these people off. It is abiding in this genocide. And also, here's a code to Outer Worlds 2. Enjoy, brother. And then you go like, oh, yeah, sure, great, thanks. Can't wait for my review to go up. I get to tweet when I get it. Like, expect a review on Thursday at this time. Thanks, Xbox. Come on.
I think what's so important here about this conversation is the acknowledgement of what the status quo is. In our current like cultural environment, we deploy the word privilege a lot. We talk about it a lot. But I want to talk about how that is posturing here specifically, because part of privilege is that you are rewarded by the status quo. That is the status quo upholds those who are privileged. And I do not care about your political opinion as it exists in your heart and your mind. I do not care. What I care about is your material action. That's a huge reason why I like the BDS movement so much, is because it is focused on actual material action that you can participate in right now. And when you report on stuff about how bad something is, when you post about how bad something is, but it doesn't change anything about your material actions, about how you cover Xbox. Again, I ask, how many times can you cover layoffs before it changes something about your relationship to that company? How many times? Or are you simply here, and please admit this if this is the case, but own it. Are you here to spread their press release? Is that what you're here to do? Because if that's what you're here to do, then I completely understand your position in this environment. Maybe you consider yourself unready or unqualified to do work that demands more of you than that, work that demands you to confront somebody every now and then. And if that is the case, please own it for me. But the fact of the matter is that there are more important things going on right now than you consolidating your privilege, enjoying an early review code for a video game so that you can march out a list of back of the box features, give it an 8 out of 10, and move on with your life while tweeting, so sorry about genocide.
It's you have to know. You have to know. And here's the thing. If you are like, I understand that, like, this is going to hit different for different types of people in games media, right? If you are enthusiast press, I get it. You got to maintain that relationship, but you have to know. You have to know. That is your duty as a human being, right? You have to know that this is going on. And if you are wanting to be a real journalist, you have to understand that this is what's being asked, and it's difficult and it is uncomfortable, and I get it. And I also get the position that we're in with this, as we are small content creators who are not working as journalists, right? But we're independent. And a lot of people are independent. A lot of people in games media are independent. A lot of games media itself is independent, right? How often are you hearing like, oh, we're an independent website. Oh, we're an independent podcast, whatever. But if you're independent and all you do is regurgitate press releases, then how independent are you?
Yeah.
Like, truly, are you using the things that make you independent for your audience, or are you just trying to posture as one of the big boys in games media who does have these corporate interests that they have to weigh? You know what I mean?
Status quo.
Yes.
It is I'm an independent video game outlet, but I'm going to cover video games in the exact same way that all of these big boy publications cover them, because I have decided that that is the image of success that I want to uphold. And when you choose to uphold that image of success, you are supporting the status quo, a status quo that exists to keep certain people down. And by the way, a status quo that I think empowers the companies and gives so much power to them, who they're giving the codes to, who they're giving access to, rather than building anything new or potentially more meaningful. Something that's so important to me with this conversation is that on a personal note, I have largely given up on games media's ability to speak for me. Yeah, I've largely given up on that. And I think that the thing that I am now making an appeal to is on a personal level. On a personal level, when I go on Twitter or Blue Sky or whatever it is, and I see somebody tweet, I have been playing The Outer Worlds 2, period. It's awesome. What are you doing? Is your solidarity worth less than that post? You don't have to do that. Go do your stupid job that I don't respect. Go do your sorry,
No.
But like if you, because we were talking about this a little bit off air. I know that a position I hold, that I'm not asking everybody to hold the same positions as me. That is not my plea today. But something that I do feel in my heart is that not every job is worth existing. Not every job is worth having. And what I mean by that is, I think sometimes there's a comparison that I used when I was explaining this to you, was that there's this conversation about like small businesses in our government and in our politics. We love to imagine this like small business owner, and we make everything about them economically. Very stupid. But something that comes up a lot is like when somebody says we need a higher minimum wage, somebody will combat that. They'll say, no, we can't do that, because at the end of the day, all it's going to do is hurt the small business owners. At which point I would say, if you are a business that cannot afford to pay your workers a fair, livable wage, I do not think that your business should exist. And likewise, if your work, your website, you say Xbox is too important for us to cover, the clicks, the revenue, the coverage, our relationship, the audience, whatever it is, I have to cover it. If I am a freelancer and I say working on Xbox games, writing about Xbox games is too important to my personal, the amount of money that I am making, my lifestyle, the way that I live my life, I would say your business has failed. Your business has failed. If you are dependent on an arm of apartheid, if you need to siphon off value from something that is actively engaged in some of the, maybe the worst atrocity I've ever seen play out in my life, then it is time to get a new job. It is time for, then I don't think your thing should exist. And again, I am not asking you to adopt that position, but I guess what I want is for people to really understand the lengths that I personally have gone to try to water myself down and understand and be generous to the people out there, because that's how I feel. I am not expecting everybody to go up in arms and quit their jobs or whatever. I understand everybody's got individual circumstances, and because our circumstances are less than ideal, it makes it hard to criticize anything. And I know how problematic that is, but I also know that that is the reality. What I am asking everyone today is simple. Why are you, after completing your work, after reviewing an Xbox game, after reviewing the ROG Ally, after reviewing Ninja Gaiden, why are you so proud that you did that? Why are you so proud? Do you really have to?
So this is where I don't disagree with you really at all, but I do feel like slightly nuanced different about it, whatever. But this is where I really, really struggle.
Yeah.
Like, listen, I get that it is not realistic to not cover Xbox in the current era that we're in. And also it again, it depends on what your publication, what your outlet, what your position is, right? It really depends. Sometimes you go to work and you have to accept that you work at a company that is doing a thing you disagree with. I worked at DualShockers and The Gamer for 2 years. Brother, I know. Do you know what I mean? Like, woke up every day, felt that way.
Yeah.
I can't judge you. I can't. I won't, right? But I do think that there is a way that if you've got to review the shit, fuck, whatever, do it. Sometimes you got to do something you don't want to do at work, and sometimes you feel bad about it, whatever. But then it's exactly what you're saying. But then, like, don't come out here and be posting about how excited you are that you got to review this thing. I understand. I get it. I want to be respected by my peers more than anything. Not more than anything. You know what I mean? I would love to be respected by my peers, for them to see, oh my gosh, Peter wrote this great review about this thing. I would love that. It doesn't have to be these things. And sometimes you have to write a thing for your job, and I get it. But like, why then are you in your personal life, in a space that you are trying to curate for you personally on Twitter, Blue Sky, what the fuck ever? Why are you out here being like, oh my gosh, I was so excited that I got to review Ninja Gaiden 4. Come on.
I'm at the Halo Studios today.
Yeah. What's up with this, guys?
What is going on, dude? Like, it's just because, again, what's happening there to me is that you are trying to personally benefit from this. That you are trying to extract value from a corporation that is extracting value from piles of dead bodies,
and they are using you.
They are using you.
They are using you to make people not think about that.
Yeah, thank you. That's right.
And it's hard, and it's a difficult thing. I think it is a challenging thing to recognize and understand and whatever. And then also, because like with all of this, you have to weigh things in both hands, right? That thing about like, I have to do this. This is my job. Also, this makes me feel a certain way. But at the end of the day, you have to weigh them both. I think as a person, you have to know, right? And so it's uncomfortable to be like, oh, wait a second, Microsoft is using me for this purpose. Right? Like, they are.
And it's social media is our space. I understand.
Yes.
We all go into work and we're a little bit owned. We are a little bit owned. We are
100%.
A little, yes,
you are.
We are a little bit owned, and I accept that. And I understand that is tough. But what I am asking from people is that, again, games media is so small. The amount of people that are clouded up, that have a platform that could actually inspire some kind of social change is so small. If you had a couple of these people that actively said, I'm going to be on social media and I'm going to make it uncomfortable for others when they post their Xbox reviews, I'm going to practice not doing that. And please.
If we held the same passion for the way people talk about AI as we do with the way people talk about a genocide, it would be so different. You cannot. I mean, literally today, there's this post on Blue Sky. Someone shared about like that. Some tech bro on Twitter shared this thing, and it's like a Call of Duty looking ass type first person shooter thing, and it's fully AI generated. It looks like garbage, and everyone's dogging on it. Right? If we all shared the same amount of displeasure with this as we do with looking at this like incredibly boring looking brown first person shooter that doesn't even exist. I think we would change things because what you're saying, it's small. There is a culture here, and I don't know if this made it into the episode or not because I'm kind of confused on what got cut. We did cut some stuff for the first time ever, but there was like 25 full-time jobs in games media. And obviously it's bigger than that when it comes to independent content creators and whatever else. But if you make your culture around saying we do not accept this, I think it would change things. I really do.
And we have a culture that is constantly upheld. How many times do you see people in games media participating in kind of a social media dog pile once a week?
Yes.
There is a culture that is prominent and powerful that is acting online. Please.
We're all confident to yell at some lady who's never written a review before who released her thoughts about Silent Hill F, but god damn it, Xbox.
Peter,
it's too holy.
I have been enjoying the new Pokemon game, and sometimes I post about the things that I like about the Pokemon game, right? And I saw somebody prominent in games media to post, "Hey, you don't have to defend Pokemon. They're $1 billion corporation. You don't have to do that." And I'm like, what are we doing? Like this like, and that's not like an isolated incident. I think that's what I'm trying to speak to of we kind of have a culture of there are things that it's like kind of cool to look down on and to post about. I would say even kind of the Dear Evan Hansen lib-coded way that we post about layoffs is in this conversation as well. There are things that are acceptable. There are things that you can and things that you cannot say. And would it be so awful if a few people used their platforms and used their voices to actually do something that was a little bit divisive? Because in every single one of these other examples, what is happening is that the games media person, the person with the platform, only ever leans into the power. Oh, they only ever do that. I am thinking back to a similar but different scenario with the Insomniac League. I remember that this was widely dunked on at the time. I think maybe not. Maybe I have a misunderstood reputation or understanding of events, and maybe it's even been the position has changed over time. But I remember when that Insomniac League came out, and like kind of funny, delivered straight to the camera. This like, we are not going to be talking about the Insomniac League. We are aligning ourselves with Insomniac. We are not going to be acknowledging all of the stuff that was uncovered from that leak. And goddamn, Peter, it's like there's something about that message that when I acknowledge the fact that Kind of Funny themselves are featured as Easter eggs in Insomniac's Spider-Man 2, there is something about that message that stirs up this like grossness in me over like power above all else. Institution above all else, proximity to power above all else. And maybe that's like an unfair comparison for me to make, right? Maybe that's like an unfair thing for me to dig this up a year, 2 years removed.
No,
but I think it speaks to the culture. Yes. It speaks to the culture. Yeah.
It's like we can talk about anything as long as it's not like a real fucking big problem.
Yes. As long as it doesn't result in us doing our jobs differently.
Yeah. And I think it's this thing, right? Where like, I'm not so familiar with how Kind of Funny or whoever like positions themselves, right? I view them as content creators.
Yeah.
They're not journalists.
Sure.
So like at the end of the day, if that's what their gig is, great.
Sure. Yeah,
great.
Of course. Yeah.
That's what your gig is. You know what? Like, I don't think anyone is looking to them for like journalism, sure. Right? Or like you look at, I don't know, other groups similarly, right? Same as us, right? Are we journalists? No, we're content creators.
Yeah, I would say critic. Yeah.
But like understanding what that role is.
Yeah.
And you and I have decided that this is our role and that we are going to say no. We are going to say no, we are not doing this. And we're going to make a video like this and we're going to talk about this. But I think at the end of the day, I just keep coming back to that thing that Autumn Wright wrote in that piece. You have to know.
You have to know. You have to know what you're doing. I Peter, like stirs something up in me like so weird when I think about how like my posting positively about a Pokemon game is like a more contentious thing to do than posting positively about an Xbox game.
Yeah.
That's like
it's ludicrous.
It like freaks me out. It like freaks me out that we have so like little regard for things outside of this bubble. That we like, how far does solidarity with another go? And I think like, you know, it's kind of been a year for, some would say like Gamergate 2 is a thing.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
Yeah. And it's kind of been a year where I have seen largely, I would say, that games media solidarity doesn't go very far at all.
Yeah.
Ever.
As soon as it gets turned on you, you've got some people sort of like feebly supporting you or sending you DM or whatever, but then it is largely quiet.
You know, it's tough, right? I think there's so many rebuttals, there's so many arguments that I'm like anticipating in my mind. There's so many like, and I think like it's hard because I'm not even sure how the listener, like where the listener is meeting us from. And
Yeah.
I'm just like wondering, like, is any part of us, you know, maybe like in my there's a part of me that's like that like tugs, and it's like that person in my ear going, but people don't care about this. They just want to know about video games. They just
They
want to know.
do. But
And
I think people do. I think people do care about this.
and on that point, I think that it is the critic's job, and it is the job of criticism to expand what readers care about.
Yes.
You are not just there to kind of mirror the indifference of your audience. I think so many people in games media truly believe that their work is only there to reinforce existing appetites.
Did anybody in March
Okay.
give a fuck about the blueprints?
Wow.
I had never heard of this game.
Yeah.
No, I didn't care. If you said, "Oh my gosh, Blueprints is coming out in April," I'd be like, "And?" Like, okay, sure. And then it comes out, and a lot of people are talking about it because it's meaningful and because people have an appetite for it because people in games media talked about it. They said,
Right.
"Oh my gosh, you got to check this thing out. Here's the thing you have to know about."
Yes.
Blueprints. And then what? And now everyone's saying like, "Oh my gosh, this might be game of the year," right?
Yeah.
And so it's exactly to what you're saying. We know for a fact that games media, content creators, games journalists help people expand what they're interested in learning about, what they're interested in engaging with. We know that. That is a fact. So why pretend like that does not extend to the conditions surrounding game making, right? I don't know. At what point did we all decide we care about crunch, right?
Wow. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. At what? Because that is a thing that everyone cares about now. It feels like, right? Everyone is like recognizes, hey, the crunch stuff is bad, and we should talk about it. And we should learn about it.
I think it's a fair read of the games media environment to say that most people operating within it would identify as like left-leaning politically. I would
agree.
Okay, I think that's fair. Something that came up in the election last year, I promise this is all going to make sense, is that Kamala Harris was heavily criticized for maybe not being critical of Israel as much as she could be. And people identified that as an issue that was important to a left-leaning base and were disappointed that she did not do that. And I think I think what I want to recognize here is how many people in games media were critical of her for exactly that. And then I want you to recognize that what is happening there is that she is going to work, she is going to her job, and she is not doing anything at her job that is critical of this institutional power that benefits her. And now I want you to ask yourself, are you? Not in your heart and mind, not privately. I want you to ask yourself, when you go to work, are you materially doing that in a way that when people see you at your job, when you are at the actual actions that you are taking, are you doing that? I don't know. I mean,
here's the thing. I know what the rebuttal to that is. I'm not the goddamn vice president of the United States.
Yeah, I know.
However, I think that's taken it to its extreme.
I just want people to understand.
It's this thing. It's taken to the extreme of here's someone who could do something about this, who could like make a huge material difference. Mm-hmm. But what you need to understand is you cannot call up the prime minister of Israel on the phone. But that does not mean you cannot do anything. And yeah, go ahead.
If there were more people creating this culture at our level, Who is to say that, again, this is a pressure campaign? Who is to say that the amount of pressure created in gaming, the kind of pressure that the alt-right has been able to capitalize on through gaming, who is to say that this kind of culture, this kind of pressure could not have real, tangible world effects? It has to start somewhere. Where is your line?
Yes. So I think the big question with this conversation is, what am I supposed to, okay, you've laid all this out, I agree, or whatever. What do you want me to do? What do you want me to do? And I think that is, believe it or not, a complicated question that I am sympathetic to the many different aspects of it. So I would say on a consumer level, if you're listening to this and you don't write about games and you're just a fan of video games and whatever, or a fan of Xbox games and whatever else, I would ask you to reconsider your relationship with Xbox.
Yeah.
I would say I'm a privileged person in that I own a PlayStation, I own a Switch, I own an Xbox. Not everyone is in that situation. There are some people who just own an Xbox, whatever, right? What I would suggest you do is I would say you do not buy first-party Xbox games. I would say you do not subscribe to Game Pass. And I would say try to minimize your purchases that you make that Xbox takes a cut of in whatever way you can. Would you say that that's on the consumer end what to do?
Yeah, I think so. I think that it's funny, like most of the time my recommendations for people have to do with, I think, getting involved in other ways. But the fact of the matter is that this is what the BDS movement is, and this is what they're asking for. It has never been more simple, and it has never been more direct. This is how you fulfill solidarity with people that are asking you to extend that to them. And
then talk about it. Talk about it, and let that be something that is on the mind. Because again, it's easy. It's easy that it's just simple ask. Hey, don't buy this. Done. Yeah, what's up?
Yeah, let me just share something. I think this will make it a little real for people. Recently, a member of the Critical Error Nation actually reached out to me, and they were frustrated about the kind of a lot of the stuff that we've been talking about today, and a lot of the mainstream Xbox coverage. And I think that kind of a common refrain that we have yet to really hit is this, like, viewers, let the content creators that you follow know how you feel. We haven't really hit that today. And the reason why I have not leaned into that is because of this exact instance. This member of Critical Error Nation had replied on Blue Sky to a post about an Xbox product, and from I would say, celebrated member of Games Media. And I went to that post and I saw their reply, and I saw that celebrated member of Games Media had hidden the reply. They made it so you could not see that this person was asking about BDS.
You can't. I'll say this: you can see it.
Well, we can see it if you click.
But you can see. Yeah. You can see that this person has hidden this reply.
Yeah, and you know, and I think that this particular member of the Critical Error Nation, this is an issue that's really important to them. And they've been trying to use their voice as an audience member to do exactly what I'm saying, kind of like let the creator know and say, hey, like, I am the viewer, this is important to me, and just kind of like see how that hits. I think as a viewer, that is entirely within your right to voice that. You know what I mean? It's nobody's obligated to like your content, or you know what I mean? It's totally fair.
I mean, because even in our Discord server, which is available for members of the Critical Error Nation, which is on Patreon. I don't want to plug that in this exact moment, but on our Discord server, we were asked about this, and I think our audience knows how we feel before this episode.
They do.
I think they do. Mm-hmm. But they asked, and they said, "Hey, like, kind of like almost." Saying like, hey, why haven't you talked about this? And our response was, because it's depressing. Yeah. Because we have not found a way, not because of the content, of course that's depressing, but like, because we personally, me, Peter Szpytek, you, Jake Steinberg, have not found a way to discuss this in a way that feels, I guess, empathetic, sympathetic, and productive. I have been dooming about this for 6 months, as I've seen my friends and my peers fail at being able to do this. And with these 4 things that have happened in the past like 2 weeks or so, with all of these releases, it kind of came to a head, and we just had you and I had conversations about like, how do we talk about this in a way that doesn't just feel like we're saying, what the fuck, guys? and I think we have waffled between going, what the fuck, guys? And also like, here's the deal.
Yeah. And
I don't know. Yeah.
No. And I hate to even present this as a position because I think people who have followed me for a long time know that this is not typically how I operate. But I have largely given up on the games media apparatus when it comes to this issue. And unfortunately, when that member of the Critical Error Nation reached out to me and said, what do I do? At this stage, I unfortunately responded to them and I said, wait, because one day everyone will have been against this.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yep.
And I'm sorry. And I think part of why we're even doing this episode, to be completely honest with you, is for the people like that. Just so they know. Just so that this exists and they know, and maybe they can breathe that sigh of relief in time with us in our rhythm. Okay? Like that's because honestly I care more about that person than I do about the person that's getting mad at me and writing a comment tone policing me right now. You know?
Yes. Because here's the thing, as you say, like in time, people will look back at this and be like, oh yeah, that was crazy.
Mm-hmm.
But you will know as an individual what you did and where you and how you behaved. And I think like you can pretend that you were always a part of whatever, but I think at the end of the day, you will know. And I think I will know because I saw all of those hidden replies.
I think something really quick, Peter, is just that what is particularly vexing to me about this is that at this particular moment in time, we have the language for political outrage in a way that we did not have before. Like we know how to post about injustice, we know how to phrase our sympathies, and we know how to like align ourselves rhetorically with these issues. But when the moment comes to like do something, I will not buy this. I will not review this. I will not cover this. There is this fog of irony and helplessness, and people just disappear into it. And we've landed on this culture of simulated action, of people who want to feel radical without ever taking a risk. And even like nonviolence requires a risk. Nonviolence requires a risk, the risk of being misunderstood, the risk of losing access, the risk of making people feel uncomfortable. And it is to ignore this is to say that your convenience outweighs your solidarity, that your comfort outweighs your conscience, that the horror of occupation is tragic, yes, but it is not tragic enough for you to change anything about what you're doing.
It's maddening. It's maddening. And yeah, I am frustrated, and I hope, my hope is that someone hears this and is able to take something away from it. And maybe they don't take away from it right now. Maybe it's not today. Maybe it's not this week. Maybe it's not this year. But I hope that they walk away from this and say, okay, now I know. And now I got to figure out what to do about it, and or make my peace with where I'm at with it, right?
Yeah.
Because then, so the easy part is on the consumer end, right? Of just like, don't have Game Pass. Do not buy new Xbox hardware. Do not purchase games, Xbox published games. Also, I imagine I think don't purchase games on the Xbox platform because they get a cut of that, right? So like buy used or buy secondhand, whatever. The tougher question then is, what do you do if you're in games media? And as someone who has been on the games media side of this while this is going on, I would like to offer some suggestions. I think, of course, the very easy blanket answer that I think is completely removed from all context and all understanding of what the reality of what living with this job is just, well, don't cover Xbox. Don't cover Xbox. That's, there are ways to cover Xbox currently that that still abides with the BDS stuff, right? But largely do not cover Xbox in a way that is promoting Xbox. That is through reviews, that is through impression pieces, that is through going to New York for Fallout 76 collabs or whatever the fuck, right? Like, don't do that. But then it gets tricky because it's like, okay, well, I'm at my job and I was told, hey, I'm reviewing this game, or hey, you're writing this thing. And I am not going to tell you should quit your job. I think that's ludicrous. I just think that's ludicrous because that's not how most people are able to operate. I understand that is just not realistic. I would never ask anyone to do that. But I would say there's a way that you should be behaving. And I think it comes back to what we were talking about, like posting about this stuff. Okay, I had to review the ROG Xbox Ally X. Great. I wrote my review. It's out there. I'm not going to post about it. I'm not going to walk away saying this is something I really want other people to read and look at, because I think it's about contributing to the culture, and it's about contributing to the culture of like Xbox PR. And yes, sometimes you have to do things that fucking suck at work. I get it. But also I think that there's a way that we have to behave when we are not at work, about work, that I think we should be looking at.
I agree. I think a lot of what I'm asking for from people today is a well-roundedness.
Yeah.
I think a well-roundedness will not only serve you in your life professionally, I think it'll in this particular sphere, I think it will make you a better critic. So if
I do
people
too.
yeah, so if people are, you know, there's a part of me that wonders, like, maybe people just haven't read enough, haven't seen enough to, it's kind of a cheesy word, but radicalize them.
No, I think what you're saying about becoming a better critic is really salient,
Mhm.
because the best critic you can possibly be is removed from the company that you are covering. You will be a better critic if you are able to say, I actually do not have any stake in this company, in how they feel about me. And I understand that it's difficult and complicated because of the way that these major companies are entangled with games media. I get it. I totally get it. And I understand that they will restrict access, and they have, and they will, because of that, right? You look at Bethesda and I think Kotaku, right, for years and years. I don't even know if that's even resolved. Or it's my understanding as well that like Gearbox and 2K like restricted some access for codes for Borderlands 4 because of whatever. I get it. What I'm saying is, if that is really, really important to your criticism, then I think you should reevaluate what kind of critic you are.
Yeah. And to kind of drop the video game curtain for just a moment, I would also say the book I mentioned earlier, One Day Everyone Will Have Always Been Against This. That's Omar El-Akkad, and I highly recommend reading that. I also thought that really salient, especially for writers. Ta-Nehisi Coates' The Message.
Yes.
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 Yeah, probably some of my favorite prose I've ever read in my life is in that book. So if you're somebody who is interested in learning about some of the stuff that we talked about today, while also improving your craft, I would look into those.
I think another question then comes from like content creators. Right. Because, you know, like we were talking about, there are so few like actual like real job, like full time, like I work at this company jobs in games media. And so much of that has turned into, independent outlets. With all of these huge rounds of layoffs that are going on, it's always like, okay, 7 of us are banding together. Now we're making our own thing.
Right.
I would reflect and I would ask yourself, hey, if I don't cover Xbox stuff, is my entire audience going to leave me? I think the answer is no. That's my perspective as someone who's not looking at those, whatever. I'm also not an Xbox content creator, which I think is its own sort of problem there, right? But like,
if the answer is yes, maybe look inward.
Yeah, then I would say then. But also, if your entire community leaves you, do they care about you and your perspective, or do they care about the fact that you just get access to Xbox stuff?
Right.
And then I think that's its own, again, that's a whole other conversation. But I think then you can reflect on like, well, what sort of criticism am I actually adding? What sort of things am I actually adding to this space? Or am I just a guy who gets to hold the thing and pose with it?
Or am I, in the worst version of this, or am I a foot soldier?
Right. Am I just additional PR for these companies?
Yeah.
But so I think, if you're a content creator, you look at yourself and you look at your audience, and I don't know, I personally would probably ask my audience. Do you know what I mean? I would say, hey, if I did this, how would people feel?
Sure.
And if you have people saying, I would respect you, I'd love it, whatever, do it. Great. And if you have people saying, I'm out, I think that's an individual personal choice to make. But at the end of the day, you have to know. You have to know. Yeah.
And when making this choice, something kind of like the last thing I do want to say, we didn't, I guess, get into it here, but, what BDS is asking people to do is very specific. BDS is not asking you to acknowledge that BDS exists and then not do BDS. Just for the record.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just for the record.
I in fact think that's harmful. to tweet about it and say, hey, check me out. I know what this thing is. And then I don't do that.
Yes. Or there's something that's kind of fallen out of vogue in liberal spaces in recent years, the land acknowledgement. Are you familiar with this?
I am familiar with the land acknowledgements,
yes. And I've done a lot of theater, on stage theater, and that was something that a bunch of theaters I performed at, they would do before the show started, we are on land that was stolen from indigenous Native Americans, and they would acknowledge that, and then we would just go on and do the show that we were doing. And there is a degree to which people have maybe recognized in the years following, since starting to do this trend, that this is not actually materially helpful to anyone, and it only serves as a panacea to our own kind of white guilt. And I would just caution people from your heart's in the right place, knowing that you should do or say something. But again, material action, not just acknowledgement. That's not what they're asking for. So,
yes.
Okay.
And here's the thing. I also want to hit this as well.
Okay.
I understand that people, if I had to guess, if you're watching this and you made it to this point, again, thanks for hearing us out. But if you are someone who works at one of these larger publications or has a audience that is larger than we do, because I recognize we are small.
Oh yeah.
I think that one of the really easy responses is well, of course Peter and Jake can turn this stuff down because they're no one. And I agree.
Yeah.
However, I think I just don't think that pointing a finger and saying that is helpful. And I think there's a certain level of there is a content creator who responded to a part of the Critical Error Nation by saying, I hope you're not just saying this to me and singling me out. And my response to that is fuck you.
Hell yeah, brother.
From the bottom of my heart, fuck you forever.
Hell yeah.
You can't, what kind of person is that, right? Who is saying well, everyone else is doing it. Come on.
Yeah.
Come on. Because you don't have to.
Yeah.
You don't have to.
Awesome.
Before we wrap up here.
Yeah.
I know you have a piece that you've written for us.
I do. And I was thinking, normally we play a sound effect for the members of the Critical Error royalty. I think maybe we just lovingly read the names today. I don't, you know what I'm saying? I don't know if it's a sound effect kind of episode.
I would agree, because it also feels weird to be subscribe to our Patreon.
I don't think we do that today. I don't think we do that today. Yeah.
I agree. But I do want to recognize these people because thank you for making this possible.
Yes.
It means a lot to us.
It does.
It means a lot to us.
It does.
So I would like to thank the member of our Critical Error royalty, Connor Truelove, Andrew Bolkar, Danny Disaster, Sam Cedar, Jacob Richter, and Jared Coisino. Thank you so much. We really appreciate you. So Jake, every single week,
you empower us to do what we do. You empower us. That's huge.
And thank you for being voices that help us understand what we should be talking about.
That's right.
Jake, every single week, one of us has a pre-written piece prepared. Sometimes it's fiction. Sometimes it's a short story. Sometimes it is a personal essay. Whatever it is, it helps us flex our creative muscles just a little bit. And you have written something for us this week. I'm very excited to hear about it.
Ooh, that is correct. So a lot of the times I'll take these pieces and I will post them on my blog. I will, I'll put them out elsewhere. This is the first time that I want the nation to know I have been trying to write this short story for so long, and I can't quite nail it. And I'm asking for, sometimes when you do something like this, it hits you. You know what I mean? You get through it, and then you go, I know what's missing. So I'm doing this is part of my practice right now. I think eventually this story will be released from my grasp and it will look different from this. But I think it might be kind of fun to give you the rough draft.
It opens up the creative process a little bit.
Yes, exactly. So that is what I am putting into practice today. So this is a short story called Magicians. Okay. Holly was 26 when magic found her. In the small, improbable surrender of 2 quarters that slid through her fingers and vanished like breath. She blinked. The bar smelled of polish and cigarette smoke. Washington's profile hunched across from her, unaware. And she felt suddenly alone in the universe, as if everyone else had gone blind to the small miracles that wanted nothing more than to be held. She caught a quarter behind her ear. She marveled at its ordinary audacity and whispered to the coin, "Holy shit," because she could not tell which astonishment belonged to whom. That night, Holly went home. She called in sick with something vague and invisible, an illness she would not name. She sat cross-legged on her bed, performing for an audience of none. Pennies melted out of her knuckles like wax from a candle. Dimes flared and winked out of her fingers like little suns. Nickels returned with the loyalty of an old friend. And in those moments when the world outside had refused to notice her existence, she felt a shimmer, something she had not realized she was carrying under her ribs, a private holiness that had lain dormant while the rest of her life had demanded substitution upon substitution. Substitute shifts for the weekends, substitute friends behind a restaurant, and substitute dreams for a world that would wait for her and wait and wait and wait forever. She imagined for herself now, for the first time, marquees, velvet curtains, a luminous life. And for the first time, the universe had offered her a key. She was at the grocery store when Max the Magnificent appeared. As if the world had decided she needed an immediate reminder of how small her private miracles were. He emerged from the aisle where the cruciferous vegetables go to die, a tangle of curls and glasses that made his eyes seem both conspiratorial and bright. His fingers brushed over the last bag of broccoli and met hers, and in that moment, a spark between them. A nickel clinked to the linoleum like lightning caught mid-strike. "You are magic," she said to him, before her mind could intervene. "Yes," he said, like he was confirming a truth that had been humming in the air all his life. But she noticed something was different about his magic. It did not begin with a coin. It began with something else. See, Max the Magnificent had been raised in wonder. Sleight and spectacle had been stitched into his hands before he knew how to write his name. He doubled cards, he split knives, and he laughed at the sound of astonishment as he levitated above stages and pulled rabbits from hats that were so perfect they seemed ironed alive with the devotion of the impossible. And Holly, who had learned the world only through patience and small and private miracles, felt a slow, sharp press of jealousy inside her, tasting it on her tongue like blood. And she found herself loving this man anyway, and loved him with the sort of ache that made her chest a tight drum. And her hands, those hands that could make coins appear out of nothing, became clumsy with longing. Months passed. They moved into an apartment that they called nice and that they called good, even though the words themselves carried a weight of irony and disbelief. The floors were cheap, crooked wood. The walls leaned as though they were tired from holding themselves upright. And in the kitchen, the smell of nutmeg and hot sauce and love mixed with a faint odor of ambition. Max adored Holly. The way she seasoned meals without measuring, the way she remembered birthdays that she really, really shouldn't remember, and the way that she answered every call from a friend. "This is your trick, you know," he told her one night, holding her hands between his own. "You know how to make this world stay." What did he mean by that? She wondered. She could not leave this idea alone, though she barely understood it in the way that she barely understood his magnificence. She wanted more. She wanted something impossible. She wanted the world to not stay, to tremble in her hands, to bow, to explode in applause. "Show me." she asked one night, cross-legged on their couch, a black top hat between them, like an altar of anticipation. Holly, you don't need this, he said softly. You've got the coins. You've got your stuff. Why this? Because you do, because I want it, because I love you and I want it even more than I love you, because there are worlds inside of me you will never touch and I ache for them. She did not say these things aloud. She only thought them, let them tumble and accumulate like dust in the sun. He closed his eyes and she watched and she felt the room thicken, the air itself. What is this quality? From deep inside him, his chest carried a fire. He poured his magic into a hat and a rabbit appeared alive, quivering, perfect, and he tossed it into the air and it was gone. They find their own way back, he said, voice soft. Holly closed her eyes. She pressed her palms together. She searched her own chest for that fizzing, unreachable center. She felt around, found that pressure underneath her ribs, that pressure that had always promised she might become more than the sum of small miracles. She pushed, and her hands came away wet with coins, quarters, and dimes, nothing larger, and her heart slammed. It doesn't matter, he whispered. I know, she said. Though she did not. And still, when he was not looking, she reached into that hat again, her fingers trembling with want and love and fury and desperation, so wanting of proof that she could touch brilliance, that she belonged in a world that had not put her name up in lights. 55 cents. Not a rabbit. Only enough in change to ache and to covet what she could not have. Only enough to feel her own small magic shine dimly beside this magnificent sun. Thank you.
Wow. Jake, that was amazing.
Wow, thanks. Thanks for listening to all that. Yeah.
Can you read me again when she meets him? When you said like my small miracles, or what did you say?
Yeah. He appeared in the grocery store as if the world had decided she needed an immediate reminder of how small her private miracles were.
What a way to write about like jealousy. Do you know what I mean? It's not like biting jealousy, right? It's not like
she loves him.
Yes, but it's as if you need a reminder from the world about how small her private miracles were. God,
yeah,
that's great, dude. That's so like that is, I think, such a resonant way to put that.
Thank you.
Because I think when you make stuff privately, you do feel like they are small miracles, right? Like I think about like when I write a song, I'm like, I think it's really good.
Yeah,
I think this is really, really good. And then I go and I listen to any other song, and I'm like, why am I even doing this? You know what I mean? Like,
that's exactly it. And I think there's like this really nuanced idea that I'm trying to find in this story, which is this like somebody doing something easily that you so desperately wish you could do.
Yes. Yeah. I think about this a lot. I would not say I am someone who is innately super talented.
Okay. Yeah.
I have had to work at every single thing that I do really hard. And that is sometimes a pressure point for me, because anytime I start something new, I very rarely pick something up quickly.
Yeah.
You know?
Yep.
And so like exactly what you're saying, where she says like, you're magic.
Yeah. You
know? And it's like, I guess he is. Yeah. But at the end of the day, she is too, but in a different way. Can I ask, why coins? Like, where does that come from for you?
So for me, it's like, it's almost this weird imbalance of you have this magic ability to make money show up out of nowhere. You know what I mean? This idea of like, her working at some restaurant or something one day in a diner, and it's a piece of change that she just has this show up out of nowhere. And I kind of like the callback to the classic like magician's trick of the coin behind your ear.
Behind your ear. Yeah.
But also I think like, yeah, she can make money appear out of nowhere, but it's insignificant. It is.
That's the thing I really like.
It's incredible, but it's nothing.
Because you're not paying for stuff with coins.
No.
Right? It's not large amounts of money. And what I also really like too is this idea. I mean, even right now, like they aren't they getting rid of the penny now? I know they've talked about it forever, but I think they're actually going to do it.
Yeah.
And I love this idea too of like her power has become worse because of the passage of time. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like worse in that like she just makes this thing that doesn't exist.
Mm-hmm.
But like I like that because it's exactly what I think you're getting at. This idea of like this is so miraculous and marvelous, but it's this tiny thing. Mm-hmm. But does that diminish it being so marvelous and miraculous? And the answer is no, right? Yep. And then also that the people who do these incredible great things can still see these small things and say, wow, you're special. You are so special.
Yes, dude. But we don't believe them. We never believe them. And it's oh God, yeah. So
can I say what this did really well for me too?
Yeah,
is
please.
I think if I may sing your praises a little bit more.
Please.
I think that this speaks to what it is actually like to be in love.
Yeah.
Without being
yeah.
I mean, yes, it is a love story here, but it is more about the emotions of knowing another person and being with another person in this way that is removed from just like I'm in love with you.
Yes. Right.
You know? Mm-hmm. Because this isn't a romance, but it is, in my opinion, romantic.
Yeah, definitely. I think the initial premise of this is for me was wanting to write about being in love with somebody that was better than you at the thing you wanted to be good at the most.
It's terrifying. It's terrible.
You know? Yeah. So yeah, it's fun. I'm excited to. I definitely realized a few things as I was reading through it. So this actually
that's the best.
Yeah,
that's
so
the best.
It definitely served my practice. And the funny thing about this story is that I have a version of this story that's 20 pages long. What I just read is 2 pages long, and I wanted to. Sometimes I do that. I'm like, a good practice for me is like how can I keep this story? Yeah. Beating heart. And there was something here that I was like, oh no, there's a part here that is not that I need to put back in actually. So cool. Yeah.
I'll say I have been reading you my video scripts out loud.
Yes.
And that has been so incredibly helpful because as I'm reading something to you, sometimes I don't get embarrassed, but sometimes I'll be like, oh, I got to change this because I didn't like having to read it to you. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, of course.
Reading it by myself is one way, but then reading it to you, I'm like, oh, I got to change that.
That's so funny. I love that whatever that skill is of that like automatic flagging of the audience member experience.
Yes.
When you are, that's so fun, dude.
And you know what the worst part about that was?
Please.
And I'm again speaking about an event that only you and I were there for.
Yeah.
But you were like, you flagged it, and when we went through your notes, you were like, so there's a part where you said this. I was like, I know, Jake, I know. I read it, I heard it, I got it. Thank you. Hey, thank you for listening to us. Genuinely, I appreciate your time, and I appreciate. I think we said it in one of our bonus episodes. I don't know. I genuinely appreciate the willingness that the people who listen to this podcast have to engage with what we're saying.
Yes.
And I hope you engaged with this. I hope it made you feel something. And if it did, I would love to hear what you think.
Yeah.
Thank you for being here. We'll catch you next week.